So I'd like to say good evening and everybody welcome to the virtual crop walk of 2021 from Grey County Soil and Crop in conjunction with Georgian Central and the rest of the counties that are part of that. My name is Rob Kirkconnell and I'm the president of the Grey County Soil and Crop, and as well we're the host farm for tonight's proceedings, and we're very excited about that. Tonight we're going to do a live in-camera mid-season check on some of the crops grown on our farm, such as wheat, corn, soys, and forage as well. We have 4 agronomists who will be in the field making observations, sharing their findings on farm and issues that they might see pop up, as well other issues in the area that may be going on. We'd like to keep the conversation open, so if you have questions, ask anytime, either unmute yourself or through the chat box, and we'll pass them on to our agronomists in the field, or myself as well, if something in the farming practice I can help you with. Can everybody hear me okay? Just get a thumbs up. Just make sure. Perfect. Oops. So just some housekeeping items to help make this work smoothly. If you can mute your microphone when you're not talking, just keep background noise to a minimum. That way everybody don't get any feedback or stuff like that. As I just said, if you do want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself. Either the bottom left-hand corner, usually in Zoom, you can unmute or hold the space bar down. Pretend like you're a truck driver in a walkie-talkie. It works as well. Just a heads up, the session is being recorded, so we could possibly share it at a future date, just so you know, if you're okay with that. If not, just turn your camera off and you can just listen, either or. Like I said, the goal is to be as interactive as possible, so ask questions as they come along. So this is a virtual crop walk, and it's part of a summer series based with Georgian Central region. So the counties in Georgian Central are Grey, Bruce, Dufferin, and North Simcoe. Since we can't do an in-person crop walk with the COVID regulations, and we're not sure what they're going to be, there's going to be 4 this summer, as mentioned. Each county is going to take a month, and Grey County drew the short straw and is doing the first month. And we're pretty excited about it. We have some interesting things to look at. And in lieu of typically, we'd provide a lunch for an in-person meeting. So in lieu of normal expenses, we're going to make a donation to Grey County 4-H. And if anybody else wants to make a donation in lieu of, I post the address there of the secretary for the Grey County 4-H. We feel like this is 4-H is an excellent organization, and we want to make sure we support local organizations that are very involved in agriculture. So we're very appreciative of that. I'd like to just thank our sponsors who helped us throughout the year. Their contributions are greatly appreciated, and these companies donate time and financial resources throughout the year to Grey County Soil and Crop and Greg Services as well. So just to get a chance to thank them and recognize them. Is there any questions before I go into the crop walk portion? Not seeing any. I'll introduce put my other hat on, and I'll be the host for the evening now. As you can see, this picture of our family. It's our farm team. It consists of my parents, Bob and Mary Ann Kirkconnell, my wife, Courtney Denard, and our daughter, Bree, who was just about 3 in this, 2.5 in this photo here. And just in our front field lab. This is last year's corn, not this year's corn, so don't get too excited. We're not there yet. Hopefully we do get there. So just a brief history on our farm. My parents, Bob and Mary Ann, started the farm up in Owen Sound in 1982. They moved from Dundas, Ontario to here. 6 kids, which I am the oldest of. And I'm also the only one that decided to come home and farm with my parents. So it made succession planning really easy, because that can always be a challenge at times. So my siblings all like the farm, but I do the work on the farm. So it balances out that way. I graduated from college in 2001. I worked off farm for a couple of years, and I came home in 2003 while working off farm and on farm. We incorporated the farm in 2010. My wife became a partner in 2010 as well. And our daughter was born November 1st, 2017, and she is in charge of calves and feeding cats. And she does a really good job of both those things. Just a brief history on we're a dairy farm. We have milked 40, when my parents bought the farm, they had 40 stalls. We went through a renovation in 93 and went to 50 stalls. We did another renovation in 2007. We installed a TMR, and that was a big move forward. In 2013, we renovated from the stalls to make them a little more comfortable, a little bit wider. We actually lost a stall, but we, with the cow comfort, we didn't even notice the difference, so that was a positive. In 2017, we made the big decision to retrofit our current facility to a robot milking facility, and we're very happy with the decision, and we haven't looked back. It's a 60 stall free stall with an automated feeding system, and we're very quite happy with our decisions and everything we did along that way. It's really changed our lives, and yeah, it's been really good for us. From the cropping side of things, we currently run about 352 acres worth of land, own 160, rent another 230. This year's rotation is 42 acres of beans, 30 acres of corn, all for silage corn, 80 acres of wheat, and approximately 200 acres of hay. So we do grow a fair bit of hay. So as you can tell from the conversation, it's been a very dry spring. I'll just lay that as a precursor for the conversation. So this is what we wish we had: nice rainy day, sit in an umbrella and just watch it come down, but we just haven't got that. Flora, you want to post that poll there? This will help into the next conversation. So there's just posting a poll there, and take a few seconds and answer that. Is that everybody?
We're a little over half at this moment.
Okay.
They're coming in.
Another 15, 20 seconds and we'll post the results.
Yep. I'll kind of wait for them to stall out.
Okay.
I think we're stalled. So I'm just going to end it.
Okay.
And I'm going to share results.
So just as you can tell, based on our conversation, it's been fairly dry. 14% have had no rain in June. 38 have had up to a quarter inch. 14 is a half or a quarter to half, and 33 is over half an inch. So that must be like the wettest part of the counties right now that we're looking at. And I know we're all surprised by that frost there in late May. And I know talking to Carrie tonight, she's had a lot of replants, and Jay said the same thing as well for soybeans. So I know it's done a lot of damage. I'm pretty sure my cantaloupe and cucumbers aren't coming back. So from that side of my garden side. So just as a precursor, my sister-in-law and brother live right around the corner from us, and he does a very good job keeping track of moisture. So this is what he's got in his place. So it's about a 3-minute drive, so it's fairly close, but we do know these cells pop up and somebody gets rain one day that the neighbor doesn't get. So, but you can see it's been a fairly dry spring. Approximately 2 inches in April, an inch in May, and almost an inch in June. So it's coming along, but still fairly dry. We would like a lot more, but we're always grateful for what we get, and always grateful when somebody else gets rain too, because we're all in the same boat. So it's nice when people can get it.
We got 1.4 millimeters today. I actually got my shirt wet because I was out feeding a calf this morning. I had to go to down south of Cashtown this afternoon. I drove through a shower, but it didn't rain much here at home. In May, I have to look it up, but I think we've now got 15 millimeters in June. The average in the last 10 years is around 75.
Wow.
So we're running 20%. I got corn in the field that one row has corn with 10 or 12 leaves on it, and the row beside it's got 4 just coming out.
Yeah, it's just been.
Maybe I could add some silage for you, Rob.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just been very, very spotty. Maybe because we pay attention to it more, I'm not sure, but it's interesting how some areas can get it and some don't. I know Jay and Justine said Justine got 4 inches in her house and her brother's 5 minutes away and got nothing 2 weeks ago. So it's just crazy how that works. So we have 4 agronomists tonight who are going to be live in the field on our crops there. Carrie Davenport from Georgian View Ag Services, Brandon Dietrich from Sprucedale Egg Mart, and Jay and Justine Lennox from the North Wellington Co-op. I believe Justine is on the camera, and the other 3 are going to rotate through. So we're going to look at the winter wheat first. It's actually the first time our farm's grown winter wheat. Part of that reasoning is we're trying to do more with cover crops, and wheat made a nice thing. And as well as wheat usually gives you a bunch of straw, so that will help with not having to search for straw every summer or fall when we're always short. So that's 2 of the main reasons. One of the things we're trying to do on farm is utilize cover crops a bit more in the last few years and try and keep everything green going into the spring. So it's interesting. There's a lot of learning, but there's a lot of information to learn from. So as you can see, the planting dates, the acres, the varieties, what it came out of, and then there's the passes there, the herbicide and nitrogen applications. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our agronomists. And bear with us. We had decent luck in the practice round, so hopefully it carries over in the real thing. So I'll turn it over to Justine, Brandon, Carrie, and Jay. And if there's any questions, just fire them along either the chat box, or they can hear you live too, so they can answer them.
Okay. Can you guys hear us okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Just if we could get Rob to stop his sharing for screen so that Justine can take over.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Good on my end.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I'm Carrie, and this is Jay and Brandon, and then Justine's managing all the tech for us today. You guys can thank us because it's raining now here. As Rob said, it's been dry, brutally dry. I think we figured out at Keith Kirk's place, he has a weather station. We've had about 0.35 inches of rain over the last month. So we're pretty dry overall. So as Rob said, we're going to talk about his wheat crop here. He's got 3 different trials going on actually, and intentionally. So if you can see here, Justine's got it on a crop that's come out of actually sod. And then where Brandon is over here, that was the earliest planting out of, I think it was barley. Yep, no-tilled in. And then on the other side, that is after corn silage and the latest planting. Few things that we wanted to talk about for this crop. Overall, it looks good. During the flowering period, we didn't have any rain. And actually, we had a hard frost for 2 mornings up here around the end of May. But we're still seeing evidence of it. If you can see on the is what basically not going to amount to anything, and then the kernels below are going to compensate for that loss. Few other things about this particular wheat that we're in after sod. Jay's got a couple things to note on it here that possible risks.
So just pulled out a plant here, so everyone can hear me. And this plant suffered from take-all. Pretty common in wheat on sod, wheat on wheat, or even wheat on barley. But here in this case, we only found it on the sod, and luckily not too much. Basically, just plant turns completely white, and absolutely nothing in the heads, as you can see there. The other thing we've seen a lot is powdery mildew in this field. Some degree has aborted the tillers completely, but quite a bit of pressure of that particular disease here.
Rob did spray a fungicide at T1 timing. So it prevented the powdery mildew from moving up the canopy, but it does start in the base, and it was pretty severe overall in the county, I would say, widespread.
One more thing we saw in this field, I think it's probably a pretty common theme across all of Grey County. If you can zoom in on this head here. Look real close, you'll see some of the florets are turning a pretty pale white color. And then we think this is just the drought showing its impact on this wheat that's headed out. These kernels just running out of moisture, and unfortunately we're not gonna get big plump kernels of wheat that we like to see to make big yield. But hopefully with this weather right now, maybe things are changing up.
Things are turning around, thankfully. Yeah, overall, I think Rob should be pretty darn happy with his first crop of wheat, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it finishes out for him. But yeah, we'll see. We need moisture now, definitely, while kernel fill is happening. But it's definitely taken a hit early on when it was flowering and had drought stress.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Okay.
The
The one thing we wanted to say, Rob, was maybe we'll take questions at the end when we're inside with you, just because it's quite cold right now. So we might just wait until the end, if that's okay with everybody else.
Yeah, that's fine. It is cold outside, so
Yeah.
yeah, we can congregate in the office after and just do it that way.
Especially when Carrie's in shorts.
Yeah.
Yes. I had made a commitment to wearing shorts like since May 13th, and I stuck to it until today. I did have pants on at one point today, and then thought, oh, it's humid out, I'm gonna switch back.
Okay. You guys gonna move back?
We'll send it back to you, and then we'll.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go and so the wheat is at my neighbor's farm, and they're gonna drive back to our farm, and that's where the corn, the soybeans, and the hay part of the presentation will be. While they're driving back, I'm assuming I can get this to work right. Oops. I have a video. I get this set up properly. Share screen. Am I muted? No. Okay. So reached out to, I'd like to thank Stacy Denhan, a broker of Real Page and RCR Realty. I contacted her about getting a drone video done, just to give an overview of the crops and the fields that we're showing off tonight. And Stacy's a big supporter of agriculture and gray egg services, so she generously helped out with that. So I'm going to show you the film. The drone video was shot by Harry Gills. And it's really neat, actually. You kind of see different angles of your farm that you don't normally see. So just give me a second here and I'll get this loaded up for you. Let's see now, that one. Okay. Stop share. There we go. Share screen. So again, thanks to Stacy for helping coordinate that, and just a quick overview of our farm, and it's kind of neat actually. I was going to stand on top of the silo and take a picture, but I think that was way more efficient than what I could have done. So
That was excellent, Rob. Thank you.
yeah. Any quick questions there about that, or I can carry on? I think they're her and pulling the driveway. If there's any questions relating to crops, we'll just do them after at the end. So just write them down and save them, and then we can. I think we're gonna convene in the office here. We're a little bit warmer for them, so. Or
you can put your question in the chat box and we'll just read it to them once they get into the barn.
That's true too. That's a good idea too, actually. If you're like me, I just write everything down so I don't forget as I go. So. Oopsies.
Hey, Rob, was that stubble that was showing there, was that cereal rye or winter?
That was winter triticale, oats and peas. We planted 35 acres of that this year as a cover crop, and it turned out really well. We were quite happy with it from feed quality wise, and I think we got 127 bales off 35 acres, 52-inch bales. So it's a nice little bonus for and good quality feed too. So we're feeding the cows right now, actually. Okay. So next we're going to look at the corn, and as you can see, I didn't put the varieties in there. I apologize. It was a Pioneer. I think it's 89 AMXT, and there's silage specific and dual purpose. We usually need about 30-35 acres, so we should be pretty close to have there. Seeding rate, a couple different tillage practices, you can tell. We disc and cultipack the one field that was burnt off last fall and worked out really nice, and the other one we ended up taking the offset disc to and getting a neighbor to use the RTS to work that field up just to break the clumps up, because it was burnt off this spring as we changed our mind last fall how fields we're going to work in. And we use solid manure. We apply it in the fall or in the spring and try and work it in, and you can see the seeding rates for the fertilizer. Neighbor custom plants it for me. He puts a starter through the drill. We put sulfur on all our crops now. We have done the last 5-6 years. It's just, to me, it's just part of the plan. You do it. We're going to test for nitrogen, see if we need to add a second application of nitrogen. And it was sprayed June 9th. Oops. So I'm going to turn it over to our agronomists again, and they can walk you through the fields and show you what they found.
Okay, we're in Rob's cornfield now. Okay, we're now here in Rob's cornfield. It's a great looking field of corn. It's got real nice color to it. This was in sod last year, so it's a great situation for growing corn. And what we thought we'd do here is we're gonna dig up a couple plants here, just take a look at the root system and the seeding depth. Everything looks like it came up real even, so we don't expect any issues. So if you look at this root system of this corn plant, when we turn it around, you notice that it's got a nice circular root system, which is a good sign that this field of corn was planted into good dry conditions. I know this being such a dry spring, there really wasn't too many issues, but say it had been a wet, muddy spring and we had troubles getting the corn in the ground, you would have seen what we would call a pancake root system. And those roots would have just kind of grown straight down the seed trench. They wouldn't have grown out either way. But see, it was a nice dry year, nice dry spring. This corn went into great conditions. Now, if you dig into this root mass a little more, we'll try to see if we can find the seed. There it is. You can see that.
Oh, we lost you there, Brandon.
Yep, just can you hear me, Rob?
Yep, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, we ran out of battery on one phone, so we switched to the second one. Here we are. Just give me a sec here.
That's fine.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, if
Here.
you take this hit.
Oh, you take
There you go.
Keep talking. You can hear them, Rob?
Yep, I heard you.
Can you hear me, Rob?
I hear Carrie, or, yep.
Okay, yeah, we're just dealing with some technical difficulties out here. So what we wanted to show you is we just wanted to give a rough estimate of what the seeding depth was of this field. So it's probably hard to see in our spade, but from where my thumb is, that was a ground level. And the red seed looks like, so that's the 2-inch mark on the spade. So it looks like this corn seed was planted about 1 3/4 inch depth. Now we're going to pan to Carrie, and Carrie has done a population stand for this field.
Yeah, so basically for 30-inch row spacing, you need to measure off 17 feet 5 inches to have 1/1000th of an acre. Rob has about 33,000 seeds per acre here, plants per acre, and very even emergence too. You can see that his consistency and spacing as well, which has been kind of variable, I would say, this year for growers, whether it's because of shallow seeding depth, not getting into any sort of moisture or catching any moisture afterwards. A couple other things that maybe we should note that's happened in the area is we actually saw a hard frost, as we mentioned, in the wheat field for 2 mornings, and saw quite a number of cornfields that were completely dead tissue and flopped over onto the ground. The growing point was still below ground, and thankfully that those crops have grown fully through that frost damage. But it should be mentioned that definitely some corn on corn, like high residue, low organic matter, sandy soils, took a hard hit for those frost warnings. Something else that I found too in this field is thrip damage in the bottom 2 leaves. At this time is not severe enough to warrant any sort of chemistry application. But if it was severe enough that it was causing tissue damage all the way through the plant, then it could possibly signal
Population. Say that.
Oh, sorry. The emerged population was 33 and 33. Yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this field for Rob and pretty excited. A couple other things I guess that we should note is watching out for western bean cutworm later in season during tasseling timing, watching out for egg masses and larvae hatching and moving up the canopy up into the tassels, feeding the tassels and coming back down to the ear and exposing that crop to some severe diseases.
And looking ahead to the rest of the growing season for this corn crop, most fields are planted in very good time this year, and even with the lack of rainfall, I'd say the majority of fields in Grey County are still looking very good. I mean, there's a little bit of drought stress in the heat of the day when it's really dry, but so far we're in decent shape. So if we can get some rain in the next couple of weeks, I still think we have big yield potential here. If anybody's thinking about side dressing corn, I still think it would be a very worthwhile option.
Really, we need moisture during the flowering time, and that's the vital time for corn. During the vegetative stage, we can get away with low levels of moisture.
Rolling is the corn doing its job.
Yeah. The corn's setting deep roots now, so we're setting up for a good July, hopefully.
Okay, let's head over to soybeans.
So just was there walking with the soybeans right beside the corn there. So 27 acres was planted out of corn silage last spring, and the other 15 was out of a cover crop, as I mentioned, of oats, triticale, and peas. One was no-tilled, one was conventional. And I'm quite glad we no-tilled it in based on the lack of moisture, and it was just sprayed June 17th, and I'll turn it back over to our agronomist there. Oops, the right one.
Before they start, I'll just apologize for all the wind noise. Of course, the night of our crop walk, we have the windiest night that we've had in ages. So if there's stuff that we've missed, I'm sure the
I'm good.
agronomists will fill us in when they get back into the barn.
When were these planted?
That was planted May 14th.
Rob?
Okay, so we're right here in the soybean field here. Roundup Ready beans, approaching or well into fourth trifoliate here. And the fifth one's starting to unroll there, as you can see right here at the top. Good looking plant here so far. We're starting to see some nodules there, yeah, and some good root development. This is conventional till here. Planted at, I mean, nice and early, so there's been lots of opportunity to get going here. A couple things we see right in the field here, as just, you know, pan a little bit, is there's been a lot of weed pressure. This was sprayed last Thursday, Classic and Glyphosate. A little later than I'd like to see the herbicide application happen, but that's been 2021. Soybean applications have been tough to time right. Lots of fields are clean and then all of a sudden they're filthy. And the same in the corn. It's been challenging to get sprayers around to the fields with some tough spraying weather too. Even though it's great hay drying weather, that's not always great spraying weather. A couple other things we're seeing just since the herbicide application, lots of leaves here with some sun scald. Just basically a sunburn on the leaves, and it's enhanced when you apply a herbicide like glyphosate. So no real issue here. It's just something you might see in your soybean fields right now.
Okay, and then a couple other things that we're finding is bean leaf beetle feeding and grasshopper feeding. As you can see, the defoliation on this trifoliate here. It's not enough to warrant any action by any means, but it should be noted and monitored as it's progressing through. The other thing that I wanted to mention was during drought stress, soybeans actually will shorten their internodes. So you can see this plant has tight internodes between this axis and the next trifoliate above it. Frost damage wise for guys, for customers and for growers in the area, we got the frost, yeah, end of May. So there were some that were at first trifoliate stage, and same deal. Either the plant was dead below the cotyledons here, and that meant that the plant was completely done. Some had different growing points starting to have regrowth, so the plant was fine, but should be noted, and I'm sure you'll actually see that now too in many fields. A couple other things that maybe we should mention for later in season, especially during this kind of drought stressed year so far, is spider mites. You might start seeing them a little bit earlier than usual too, but basically you'll see sandblasting on the leaf surface, on the backside of the leaf, and then little mites crawling around behind. Yeah.
Particularly on your field boundaries,
Yeah.
and near hay fields or grassy hay fields.
Yeah, and they'll just move inward in through the field, but it will start from the outside and perimeters and move in. So yeah. Another thing that should be noted is soybean cyst nematode. Basically, if you're looking at the roots here, you'd actually be able to see the cysts on the roots. They're very, very small, but if you are doing beans on beans, not much rotation, you really need to watch out for this. Also, you won't notice it right away, but later in season, you'll see a big circular area or spotty area where plants just die off or are dying off early. that could be SCN. So dig up the plant, look at the roots, try and find the cysts. If not, if you can't find them, sample it, and you can test for soybean cyst nematode as well. Yeah, that would be. Any other comments?
Nope.
All good?
Nope.
Okay. We're just going to move now over to the alfalfa here.
Okay, thanks guys. And like I said, any questions, put them in the chat box. I've seen a couple comments roll in there. We'll discuss them at the end when everybody's in here. And yeah, just keep those questions in mind for when we get there. Next. So hay, the field you're going to see is actually, I think, second year hay now, I believe. We strive for quality, and we do a lot of baleage for our milk cows, and we do a lot of dry hay as well. And Brandon and Jay are going to touch on this, but we actually had to spray for alfalfa weevil this year. Just the presence in the second cut, we might not have anything or not too much left of it. So I'll turn it back to them, and they can discuss that. Do that right. Yep.
The crop we're going to look at tonight is Rob's alfalfa crop. This crop was cut on May 28th to do his haylage for his dairy cows. And there's a nice bit of regrowth here already. It may have caught a little rain at the start of June. And also I find that early cut hay, there seems to be enough moisture left in the soil after first cut that the second cut gets a decent crop. But like Rob mentioned, the main thing we're going to touch on here is the alfalfa weevil. He sprayed last week. I know there's been a number of fields in both Gray and Bruce counties that haven't sprayed for alfalfa weevil. And it seems to be a common theme on fields that were cut right at the end of May or the 1st of June. I'm not sure, maybe the weevil population was a little later arriving this year. So that early cut alfalfa, but the first cut didn't control it and they moved in after cutting. And what you're seeing on the screen there is the alfalfa weevil feeding itself. I would say Rob was on top of his game here. I think he caught it very early. His loss is pretty minimal so far. I have a field at home and has much more severe damage than this one. So good on Rob for catching that. And being as it was sprayed, you won't be able to find any of the weevil to show you what they look like. But basically what they look like is small, pale green worms that are no more than probably only a quarter inch in size. And they can be controlled by a natural fungus parasite. And that will actually turn the weevil a pale yellow to brown color. So for anybody that cut hay at the end of May, early June, I'd highly suggest getting out to check your fields for alfalfa weevil. And if spraying is warranted, one thing to keep in mind is there's a 2-week pre-harvest interval on that product. So we're sort of getting, second cut's probably 3 weeks away. So it'd be a good idea to get out right away to scout your alfalfa fields for weevil.
Yeah, just one other thing I noticed in this field in particular with a lot of grasses, and that's what we're going to see a lot with dry fields. Ryegrass, orchard grass coming into head now, so the quality will decrease on those. That being said, with a little bit of moisture now, I think the grass will continue to thicken up, and now that alfalfa has been protected, it'll definitely bulk up. We're gonna head back to the barn, both to warm up and answer your questions.
Oh, share screen. That's it, actually. Okay, thanks guys for that, and get your questions ready if you have any. I think they've done a pretty good job explaining it, so there's always some questions that roll in after that. So that is our cropping year in a nutshell in our farm in Gray County. So we started soil testing in 2012, I believe it is, as cropping is not one of my strongest points. So I just try and listen to people who are smarter than me. And we've been trying to build up our fertility with fertilizer, and we've always had manure on farm. So that's always been a bonus, but try and make sure we put more on the fields that need it more at the back of the farm, and liquid manure has been a blessing, because after first cut, we had 70 acres of first cut. We put 3,000 gallons the acre on manure. So it got some brown rain, just not the normal rain we're looking for, but that's been a nice little plus having the liquid manure tank like that, that we can utilize it, and with timing especially. Typically last year when we did it, we put it on the next day. This year, because of the weather, it actually snowed the day after we were done baling, or we're gonna bale. So the next day we ended up waiting 5 days after, and I don't see a lot of issues so far coming back, but that's as long as I'd like to wait on it. So yeah. Any questions? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, any questions? They'll take them now, and I'll turn it over to them.
You're gonna stop screen sharing, Rob?
Good idea. Yep. I saw one comment about from Don. Said in the dry year, this is the worst year for yellow flash from glyphosate spray, and he said he's going to try some chelated manganese.
I would agree with that comment. A lot of fields, especially soybeans, I've been seeing the last few days, the new growth looks very pale, and it did see a herbicide within the last week. So I think that's a common theme this year for sure.
Brandon, you could be a bit louder.
Okay, do you want me to repeat what I said there?
Sure.
Yeah, I just said, I noticed the last week on a lot of the soybean fields, especially I've been in, a lot of the new growth does look very pale, and it does seem to coincide with the recent herbicide applications. So definitely seems to be a theme this year.
Thank you.
Rob, it's Andy here. You had said you started growing winter wheat kind of as a cover crop, a paying cover crop, I guess. But can you describe what you were doing for cover crop before, or were you at all?
This is the second year we've tried. We did some rye last year, and it didn't work out as well. I was too scared of it going too far ahead of me, so I cut it too early, and we didn't burn it off, and it was a nuisance all year. And we direct seeded some hay into it. So I just doing some research, and the tripper oats and peas seem like a very palatable mix for the cows, and the regrowth hasn't been as aggressive. So, and like I said, the quality's been fabulous. I think we were 19% protein and started on the 40%. So the numbers were really good for the dairy side of things. So, and like I said, the yield was good too. And it ties in. Cover crops are nice, but it's nice to have a use for them too. It's hard to just grow cover crops, I think, and not really utilize them. So to my eyes, it ties in nicely what we're trying to do.
Yeah, agreed. Especially, when you have livestock, ruminants around, it helps with that.
Yeah,
for sure. So what did you plant right after your harvest of the cover crop, or the rye?
Last year?
Yeah.
We direct seeded alfalfa into,
Sure, okay.
alfalfa into it.
Sorry, yeah.
And just the way the spring was too dry, and it looks really good now, but last year was more or less heifer feed between the rye regrowth and the lack of alfalfa coming up. I actually got more bales of rye the second time I cut it than the first time I cut it.
Interesting.
Yeah, we didn't know when to cut that, Rob. That was kind of one of our learning curves there, just doing a different crop, doing something different. And how many people did we have out to ask when we should cut it?
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 people come through and looked at it. So
and then we just picked a date and went with it, but
Cut out the sunshine.
basically, yeah.
In the end, we flipped a coin, so
Try to time it so there'd be moisture when we direct seeded, but it just, every time I try, even this year I tried it and it never rained. So I think I'm just going to give up and just stop looking at the forecast.
Yeah, I vowed to stop worrying about weather, but after hearing everyone's introductions tonight, I might have a headache now. Jeez.
Any other questions? You must have some. And just before we go to the extra questions, huge thank you to our agronomists tonight. It's fantastic that we have such amazing agronomists within Grey County, within Soil and Crop Association, and we really appreciate all they add to the organization. So thank you.
Hear, hear.
Questions, please.
Rob, I saw you are putting some sulfur in your corn starter. I forget how much it was, but what got you onto that idea?
I think it was 10 pounds, right?
10 pounds, yeah. I get my corn custom planted, and he orders the starter based on how many acres we have, and he uses sulfur. So we guys use the same blend he was using.
It's a mez source, so it has phosphorus, sulfur, and zinc all in one prill, basically. So it's mez from Mosaic Company, MESZ, and a little bit of nitrogen in there too.
Yeah, we add sulfur to everything. Even last year, like last year's with barley, we put sulfur on too, and I think it helped.
Are you putting sulfur on your alfalfa?
Yes, 100%.
How much? When?
Usually when I seed down and
With AMS,
Yeah.
using it.
yeah,
Ammonium
Every
sulfate.
spring too then?
yeah. Not in the spring, no.
So
I have in the fall. I did some in the fall last year. Elementals, is it elemental, is that right?
Yeah.
Elemental sulfur last fall with the potash.
While we're on that topic, I would just add that boron's becoming a big nutrient in alfalfa now as well.
Yeah.
I think once you got your sulfur not under control, but if you're looking for the next thing after sulfur, boron would be the thing to look for.
I've got the most disappointing alfalfa yields I think I've ever grown. I got a new field we just finished up this past week. In fact, that was our Father-Son Day yesterday to get the last few bushels in. And Jeremy just came in, and his stepdaughter's boyfriend volunteered to come over and help unload a couple loads of square bales. So bonus. Anyway, I was expecting a good yield. This is a good field that's been productive in other crops and in hay crops in the past. But first of all, the headlands, fairly wide. Drive by it, do the drive-by scouting deal. Nice yield, nice color, everything's going well. Happened to look out week ago Sunday. So 2 weeks ago yesterday. Boy, what's the funny color out in the walk up 200 or 300 meters? My cows are giving up their feed to alfalfa weevils.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we had looked at another field on Friday and had sprayed it. The sprayer got out Sunday morning and skipped church. The weevils, well, I hope we stalled them. But in cutting the hay, I noticed that the areas in our farm's probably as level as yours, Rob. The areas where I would notice water drains, the crop is twice as good as the other areas. I could see, I don't need my map for tile lines because I could see them. And in those good areas, the weevil is not nearly as noticeable. And Jeremy said, oh, look at that. Which variety did we plant on the south side versus the north side? Because the north side had a lot more weevil injury, but that side we also cut the oats and alfalfa for haylage last summer. I'm suspicious that we have a sulfur problem that we haven't noticed, but happen to notice it more prominently this year. And it's maybe going to cost us a lot of money to feed our cows because of production we didn't get.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Good point, Ed.
They just said you could probably tissue test based on the sulfur if that's what you're suspecting.
And there's still plenty of time if you feel you're short on sulfur. If you made an application with ammonium sulfate after your first cutting at this time of year, you would see sulfur response because the sulfate portion there is readily available. Whereas if you're applying elemental sulfur, it takes time for that sulfur to become available.
Well, I just had a chat with the fertilizer yard yesterday. Oh, no, yesterday, of course, but we were doing the math on that. And Lydia says, why don't you use K-Mag? Well, yeah, K-Mag will actually cost $5 an acre more, but it'll give me $8 worth of potash at the same time. So it's actually a little bit cheaper. And the nitrogen on alfalfa probably does no harm, but it probably won't do any good either. So anyway, when we have one more field to cut, and I see they're calling for a lot of rain on Friday and Saturday. So I better hurry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Jay, Ken was wondering what Jay was talking about the grass mix and the alfalfa. Right when he came on in the field, we were having trouble hearing him. So what was he trying to say there?
So just what I was saying there is the grasses were already starting to come into head. Certain species were, orchard grass and ryegrass in particular. And it's short, it'll continue to thicken up, but at the end of the day, in all of Rob's hay crops, and that's why we use alfalfa, we're going to rely on alfalfa for our volume, just because those grasses being so dry, you know, they're basically done. They'll continue to thicken up a bit, but the yield is going to come out of the alfalfa, and that's why it's important to protect it like Rob did from the weevil. So then I see the other question in the chat there about boron. Just we agree, kind of 1 unit of boron per year, or per liphus stand. What do you think?
Per year.
Per year, yeah. Okay, yeah, per year.
But get the low hanging fruit first. Make sure your P and K is covered off well first. That's where you should invest your money first.
And timing in that 1 year, when do you do it?
So you can add it, if you're already spreading fertilizer at one time a year, I would say to put the boron into that mix. There is a product called Aspire. It's potash that has boron infused into every granule. And the boron in that product, it's half readily available, half slow release. So say you spread that in the spring, half of that boron would be available for the summer. And the other half would kind of release in the fall and help the alfalfa get through winter survival. So if you could use that Aspire product in the spring, I think it's a nice fit.
Okay. I think we got time for 1 or 2 more questions. Who wants to take another stab and ask them when they're here?
About boron, are you seeing boron deficiency commonly, like every year?
I would say every year I can find it, as long as I'm looking for it. But if all the other boxes are checked, I think we can find value in correcting any slight deficiency that there may be that might not be just shockingly visible. Like if you look for it, you'll find it. I don't think you'd see it driving by.
No, and sulfur and potash deficiency will show up well before boron will. So
yeah.
Here was a question I thought I wrote down. Rob, what's your soil type?
Everything you've seen tonight was sandy to sandy loam. The corn's on a sandier loam soil, a little heavier soil, and everything else is fairly sandy or sandy loam, so fairly good drainage. There's very little tile drain on our farm, just a few random runs here and there, so it drains fairly well.
And it works up nice on a dry spring, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm envious.
But what was really interesting was when we did the soil testing, there were so many different levels. Obviously around the barn had its own components, but this field did that field, did this field, did that field, like directly across the road, the soils, it was, for me, that was one of the biggest surprises I saw when we did the soil testing, just how different it can be in our little, 160 acre pocket that we have here. So.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just, I see one more question here. It'll be the last one I think we'll take is from Matt. It says, he's wondering if you're doing split app on nitrogen for corn, how much nitrogen you'd like to see up front at planting?
Yeah. Yeah, we all kind of just agreed there that we'd like to see 50 to 60% down up front. It carries you over for that rapid uptake during the 7 to 10 leaf stage of corn. And you can make your decisions on how much you're going to invest in the crop at that point too. Brandon was saying in the field, like, we've got lots of time left here. I wouldn't be cutting myself back at this point based on the weather yet. I'd give it a couple more weeks and see where we're at. But
And it never hurts too to do a quick nitrate test, especially in situation like Rob's here where he's got manure. This year we've had weather for high levels of mineralization. So although some, you know, like some N levels might be higher in the soil from that, yeah, don't sell yourself short on your side dress.
Okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks you guys for everything. A couple things here. So thanks. As I said at the start, this is a part of the Georgian Central. Grey County is part of Georgian Central. We took the first straw, and ours is tonight. In Bruce County was July 6th. North Simcoe is August 19th. Dufferin is to be determined in September, not firmed up yet. The Bruce Crop Walk is virtual again. They're going to do a conversation around strip tillage. It's going to do some live videos and then also discussion on the driving set. And same as tonight, just contact Lori at Greg Services and she will sign you up. It looks like a fascinating one because I don't know much about strip tillage, but I see it more and more prominent now, so we kind of need to learn about it. In closing, I'd like to thank Carrie, Brandon, Jay, and Justine for their hard work and help putting this together. Southern Crop, like most organizations, we volunteer. It is volunteer-based, and these people have been running off their feet all spring since there's been a lack of rain days. You just been keep going, and I know it's. I appreciate the time and effort they put into tonight and coming out and helping put this together. Also, I'd like to thank Lori Smith for all her hard work behind the scenes, promoting and organizing and keeping everything together. She does a lot of work for Ag Services and Gray Soil and Crop, and we're very appreciative of everything she does. And also I'd like to thank Courtney for helping me with my PowerPoint presentation, for teaching me how to properly use quotations and capitals. It was greatly appreciated.
Huge thank you to Rob and Courtney for allowing us to be on their farm and hosting this walk. I think it was incredible. And again, thanks to the agronomists and to all the participants that agreed to sign up for this unknown called a virtual crop walk.
Yep. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. And if you wanted to turn your cameras on, Lori's going to take a screenshot.
As everyone leaves the meeting.
Leaves them off, yeah.
One more. Great.
Yeah, thanks everybody for participating. Hope you're able to take something home and use it on your own farms. And like I said, July 6th, I believe, I get the date right, for the Bruce County one. And
Paul has added a bit in the chat box, Rob, that strip tillage, planting soys into cereal rye, and no tilling alfalfa in.
Okay.
So those are some more details.
Yeah, should be a pretty good one. So anyways, mark that down on your calendar. Again, it's another evening one. So thank you very much and have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for paving this road there, Rob. That was a good deal. Yeah, for hard to live up to in Simcoe County now.
Thanks, Rob and Courtney.
We pass the torch to Bruce County.
Great.